Hello, Racine Unified staff. Thank you for joining this session of Control Your Remote Learning. In the video that you're about to watch, we intend to show you how you can use your computer in conjunction with other programs and Google Meet to share information with your students in a virtual setting. The three programs that we're going to show you are called Jamboard, Windows Ink, and ImageMate, which is a program that utilizes your Elmo or document camera in the classroom. In each program that we review, we'll show you the teacher perspective and the student perspective. So let's get started with Jamboard and the teacher view. This first screen that you're looking at is a Google Meet that's open with a teacher and a student. We're going to show you first how to get to Jamboard. If you go to the website google.com, you can click on the waffle icon and scroll down to find the Jamboard program. Remember, the waffle icon will also be available inside of Gmail and Google Drive. Once you find that orange and yellow J, you can open Jamboard and start to use the program as a virtual whiteboard. Now, when you are ready to share this with your students, you can go to Present Now inside of Google Meet and click on the option A Chrome tab and pick the tab that has your Jamboard open. When you're inside of the Jamboard, now that you're presenting, your students will see everything that you write on here, any images that you put on your Jamboard, or items that you decide to share with them. Now, if you're a teacher who doesn't feel comfortable presenting while the Google Meet is going on, you can split your screen. We're going to show you two options for splitting your screen. So you can try and drag it to the right, and sometimes that will allow your screen to split. However, in this case, you see that didn't work. So what we're going to do is press the Windows button and the right arrow on the keypad, and that will take the window that I'm working on to the right and allow me to choose my Google Meet screen as the screen on the left. When I'm doing this, I can now write on my Jamboard, keep an eye on my Google Meet while still presenting to students.
On your district-provided HP laptop, simply click the Window key and the left-facing arrow to snap the screen to the left, or the Window key and the right-facing arrow to snap the screen to the right. Then pull the other tab to the empty side of the screen.
Now we're going to log into a Google Meet and take a look at the student view of everything that was just going on so you can see how it works with Jamboard. So first, as the student, obviously when I join that Google Meet, I'm going to see my teacher. I'm going to see that my teacher is presenting to me inside of Jamboard because a Chrome tab was picked, and I can also see the teacher on the right side as they're presenting. At this point in the video, the teacher was sharing the Jamboard in a full screen setting. Now, when the teacher switched over to a split screen option, you'll notice that the screen changes to a little bit smaller. So it does adjust for the students while you're adjusting it on the teacher end as well. Just something we thought would be beneficial for you to see in working with this program. Now, for working with Jamboard, we would like to show you one more view from the teacher perspective. So when you work as a teacher inside of Jamboard, you do have the ability to share these items with your students so they can collaborate with you. And again, you would get a live view, students would get a live view, and anyone who's watching in the Google Meet would get a live view of the changes that either you or the students make. So one way that you can share is by clicking on the blue share button and typing in the student name that you're going to be sharing the item with. Or if you would like to, if you're working with a lot of students, you could copy the link. One thing you would want to do is make sure that you allow anyone you give the link to edit. And when you copy that editing link for this Jamboard, you can now go into your Google Meet and paste the Jamboard link inside of the chat, as you can see that we did with a different Jamboard in this chat. Now when a student clicks on that link to the Jamboard, they will be able to go in and make changes. As soon as they get logged into Jamboard and they open up the item that you've shared with them, you'll see that their picture will appear on the screen of the Jamboard and that they can now go in and make changes. Again, those changes are going to be live for any students that are in your Google Meet watching as you present the screen. So the student that we're working with now, Julia, is going to go in here and she's going to make a change where she just types in, or I should say in this case, writes in her initials. Now remember, since this is a live view, students could write anything in there. You really don't have control over that. So there are precautions that you can take if you feel like students are going to put too much information in, or if it's just going to get overwhelming for you to look at everything that's going on to a Jamboard slide. So one thing you could do is you could click on the sticky note feature. And when you click on the sticky note feature, you could assign certain colors or numbers to students in your class. So we'll assign this blue color to our student Julia and click Save. Once we've clicked Save, we have a sticky note that Julia could go in and edit inside of our Jamboard. So on the student end of things, Julia could now go inside of the sticky note. She would click on the 3 dots that she sees in the upper right corner to edit the sticky note and make the changes that she wants to go inside of this item. Once she does that, the changes will appear inside of the sticky note and the whole class can see them. So you get a better idea of how you could use this to keep your Jamboard and your class organized. You can notice here, if you would want to, you could edit the item, duplicate it, or delete it. Now, just as we did in the first portion of the video, let's jump back into that student perspective so we can see what Julia the student was seeing while the Google Meet was going on in the Jamboard sharing session. So now we can see the student has clicked onto the link that was shared with her for Jamboard. And now she is inside of the Jamboard that we were working on as a class. So at this point, the student can go through and make the changes that we saw Julia make live from the teacher view. What's nice to note here is that a student necessarily doesn't have to be inside of the Google Meet. They could watch what's going on inside of the actual Jamboard if they would wish to do so. One thing to note is that if a student is working inside of Jamboard and not watching the Google Meet, they should still be able to hear the teacher or other students that are talking inside of the Google Meet as they work on this program. We can see now on Julia's screen that the sticky note has appeared and she can make changes that she would like to. And we know from what we saw in the other view that she's going to write Mr. Ranky Rocks. And that's going to also again appear on the teacher view and any other students or teachers who are inside of Jamboard at this time.
Teach your students how to use the split screen feature on a Chromebook. Simply press Alt and the left-facing bracket to snap the screen to the left, or Alt and the right-facing bracket to snap the screen to the right. Then pull the other tab to the empty side of the screen.
Now that we've received that helpful tip, we can take a look at a split screen from the student view. We can see on the left side is the student's Google Meet where the teacher is presenting, and on the right side is the Jamboard that the student is working on. Let's move forward to a program that appears on our very own computers. This is the Windows Ink Workspace. You can click on the Windows Ink Workspace in the lower right corner of your computer screen. There's an area called Sketchpad that we're going to look at first. This Sketchpad area is very similar to Jamboard in the sense that it's a virtual whiteboard that you can write on and share with your students. To do that, you would go to Present Now and click your entire screen. Once you're presenting your entire screen, you're going to again go to the lower right corner and click on the Windows Ink Workspace button, go into the Sketchpad area, and at this point you'll be presenting to your students and you can write on the screen items that you'd like to see, such as math problems, spelling words, whatever is going to work best for your classroom and the content area that you teach. Notice at the top there is a toolbar of different features. In this toolbar you'll see highlight buttons, different markers. You'll even see a crop area where you can change the size of your image. Another great feature of the Windows Ink Workspace area is an item called the Snip and Sketch. Now, Snip and Sketch is valuable when you have screenshots that you would want to take and share with your students. So let's go into ClassLink and open a program called Culturegrams. Culturegrams is a program available to us that allows us to get information about countries and cities from around the world. So we're going to pretend that we're studying the Eastern Hemisphere and go to the country of Norway. When we go to the country of Norway, we can go to that lower right corner of the Windows Ink workspace and click on the area that says Snip and Sketch. Again, this will be like a screenshot that you can take for your students. But the great thing about this area is that you have a toolbar allowing you to highlight and write on the picture that you just took. So if you want to highlight something that you think is important, you could click on the highlighter and circle the name of the country in this case. There's even a ruler that you could utilize to take measurements of different items that appear on the screen. If you happen to find an item that you'd like to write on and take a screenshot of, you can go to the Snip and Sketch area, go to the toolbar, and find the correct color pen that you'd like to use to write with. Click on that pen and put numbers next to it. So in this case, we could number the paragraphs for our students. There's even a highlighter feature where we could highlight important text for our students. We mentioned earlier in the video the crop part of this Windows Ink workspace. So you can see now I can crop out just important parts of the image that I would like students to see. One really nice feature in this virtual setting is that you can copy and paste these items. You can even save them to your desktop, so you could put any notes or writings that you did on a screen sketch and share those with students in your Google Classroom. Let's switch over and take a look at that student view of everything we just went over with the Windows Ink workspace. So first we'll look at the Sketchpad. And on the Sketchpad, we can see a full screen view of everything the teacher is going over in the Google Meet. We can see that the teacher is presenting because on the left side is the Sketchpad view, and on the right side we see the teacher going through different items. We can see the live view of when the teacher was going over the toolbar features of the item as well. As the teacher exits out of this, we can see we're still in that presenting view, but now the teacher is making their way over to switching to the Culturegrams program. One thing to note here is that anything you're doing while you share your screen is live for the students. So in this case, I was okay with you seeing me going into ClassLink and Culturegrams. So just one thing to do is think about what you're sharing as you're going through so students don't see something that you do not want them to see. So now as the student, I see that the teacher has logged into Culturegrams. They're going to go into the area of Snip and Sketch, and they're going to start and highlight the important items that are available on this specific country for Norway. Again, remember the teacher at this point is going to open the highlighter, circle the country of Norway, and then eventually pull up the ruler for us to see. So you can tell that the view is pretty nice because it's almost, again, like a full screen view. The only thing we're not seeing as the student in this Google Meet is kind of the big picture of things because we have that teacher on the right-hand side. As the teacher switches over to the part of Culturegrams that is a little bit more descriptive, the student will see the same thing. They'll see that the teacher is going to Snip and Sketch to take a screenshot that they'd like to share and eventually put different writings and marks on. So again, in this area, this is where we numbered the paragraphs. We went through and highlighted important text. Eventually, as a teacher, we went through and cropped this image. When we crop the image, you'll see that for the students, this can be somewhat nice because the image gets cropped and the items above disappear. So that would be grayed out and students wouldn't see everything above. So if you feel like your students are getting overwhelmed by the material, you could do something like this to help kind of narrow it down. The student will also see that we're saving this image. And if that's something you want them to see, that's fine. You can save it and again, put it in classroom. The final program we're going to show you today is called ImageMate. And ImageMate is a program that allows you to work with your Elmo. And we're going to show you now how you can make that program work for you in this virtual setting.
Feel free to pause the video here to learn how to hook up your Elmo.
If you go to the Windows area of your computer and scroll down, you should have a folder available to you that's called Elmo. Inside of the Elmo folder, you'll find a program that's called ImageMate. When you open ImageMate, you'll see a live view of what's going on underneath your Elmo. Once your Elmo is hooked up and ImageMate is open, you can start the Google Meet that you would like to work on. Remember, when the Google Meet opens and your students join you, you'll see a view of you and a view of your students. Again, you can go into the lower right corner and click on the three dots to change the layout of the view you'd like. Now that I have my Elmo and ImageMate ready, I'm going to present now, and I'm going to choose first to share my entire screen. When I share my entire screen with my students for ImageMate, I can eventually go to my ImageMate program. As I make my way to the ImageMate program, remember that students can see anything on the screen, so they would be able to see ImageMate, but also my desktop. The only time right now that they'll see all of what's going on in the ImageMate is when you make it full screen. Now here you see a live view of me working on Google Meet, ImageMate, and the Elmo at the same time. And again, students would be seeing what's going on the screen. So in that first little part, you can see that I write on the paper, and it's got a pretty good view for students. I could also pull out a textbook, zoom in on the text. I could highlight items, ask students to read them, or I could kind of complete a read aloud for my class as well. When I make the screen smaller, again, students would see everything that's going on the computer. And so what I'm going to do now is show you how you can split the screen as we talked about before. So in this case, I hit the Windows button and the left arrow. It took my Google Meet to the left side of the screen and gave me an area where I could put the ImageMate view on the right side of my screen. This will allow me to see what's going on the Elmo and also allow me to see what's going on in my Google Meet classroom. One other option inside of a Google Meet when sharing is called sharing with a window. And for ImageMate, that seems to be pretty beneficial. If you choose to share the ImageMate window, students will get a little bit of a better view of what's going on the Elmo, especially when you split the screen. So we think this might be a little bit more beneficial, but wanted to give you both options as you move forward with working with ImageMate. Again, you can see now I can still split my screen and allow students to see everything going on in the Elmo while I'm sharing from a window. When we get into that student view perspective, you'll see how this works out a little bit better for them. As you start to think about ways that you could utilize ImageMate and your Elmo, let's take a look at what the student was seeing while we were going through that process. So in this first portion, we can see that again, the student is seeing the teacher desktop and all the items there until we make the Elmo full screen. When we make the Elmo or ImageMate full screen, on the left side of the Google Meet, the student would be seeing everything that's going on the Elmo, whether you're writing or looking at a book. Again, as we zoom in here, they'll be able to see the wording pretty well. On the right side of the screen, just as they have in many of the other things in Google Meet, they see the teacher going through the items in the class. Up next, the teacher is going to be switching to that screen where they try a split screen view. Now remember, since we're switching to a split screen view and we've decided to share our entire screen, the student can see everything that's going on. So they'll see the window, they'll see us going through the process of splitting the screen, and they can see both of the items. Now, this could get pretty confusing for students, as on the left, they're seeing me presenting because there's that split screen. And then the middle, they're seeing the Elmo, and on the right side, they're seeing me as the teacher. So since that can get kind of confusing for students, we wanted to show you what it looks like when we choose as a teacher to share a window instead of sharing our entire screen when working with ImageMate. So currently we're sharing a window, and the window that we're sharing is the ImageMate application. So we can see in this view that students get the application of ImageMate and everything going on the Elmo. And while we're doing that, there's kind of almost a black border around the items that we're working on. So this can be a little bit less distracting for students and really allow them to focus in on everything that's going on ImageMate. Hopefully, this video has given you a better idea of how teachers and students can work together in using Jamboard, Windows Ink Workspace, and ImageMate. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact your tech integrator for more help. They're willing to help you with any of the programs that you saw in the video or help you get connected so you can work in a more efficient manner with your students during this virtual learning. Thank you.